Thank you for tuning in and welcome back to the Sandwich of Coherency. So, let's just go ahead and jump right into this and catch up on what has been a very interesting and exciting, but not necessarily in a good way, kind of week. You've got the President of the United States running around spewing absolute asinine statements that could spark conflict between the United States and Russia. I mean, you've got his vice president in another what could be called spewing of word salad. I mean, at this point, her public speaking might as well just be called stand-up, open mic, because it's a train wreck. It's an absolute train wreck. And it's a scary thought to think that should Biden be removed from president, that she will be the one in charge. You know, talking about throwing the fox into the hen house. It's just absolute tragedy. It's a tragedy. But it goes on even further than that. You've got the president wanting to release another 181 million barrels of strategic petroleum reserves. You know, that's about, 9 days almost? I mean, really. But we talked about this last year when they released, we're talking about doing it before, and they already released 30 million. They're talking about joining the global scheme and releasing 30 million into the global sphere to lower the fuel prices. You've got Putin being pushed now because the ruble seems, it came back. And you've got Biden in the White House trying to try and cover the tracks, or, trying to make excuses for the sanctions that they put in place that they said would be deterrents, that they said would work. They forget we have cameras, but now since they didn't work, now they're saying they weren't supposed to do anything. Well, what were the point of doing sanctions if they weren't going to do anything? Was that to make yourself look tough so that the American people could feel like they have a strong leader? Is that what you're saying? That you lied to the American people to make yourself look tough? You have a CIA agent that signed the letter, stating that the Hunter Biden laptop was disinformation, Russian propaganda, claiming he's saying that, he's proud of the fact that he helped to steal the election away from Trump. You've got Putin deciding that if you want to buy Russian oil, you have to pay in rubles, which means you have to deposit money into the Russian banks to buy rubles, to buy Russian fuel. You've got Modi from India deciding that India is going to buy the cheap Russian fuel that we talked about before. You've got a president that has pretty much unraveled all of the agreements made in the previous administration that were moving very quickly towards peaceful times in the Middle East. You've got a new president who has destroyed the work that was done fighting ISIS and the Taliban by those previous to him. Even his predecessor, Barack Obama. Despite the fact he was Mr. Bomber in charge, even still. You've got the president who now Iran won't talk to the United States. The United States is having to have Russia, whom we're supposed to be on bad terms with, doing negotiations for us. You've got a president that has Saudi Arabia won't talk to us and you've been pushing them to the point to where they're wanting to pay for Chinese. Well, or rather, they're willing to take digital Chinese yuan in payment for fuel. Ooh, damn. You've got a president who says he wants to increase natural gas imports or exports to Europe, which makes you wonder if they are trying to destroy fuel production, natural gas, and oil in the United States. If they plan to export larger exports to Europe, does it mean they're going to increase production for that? Is it are they trying to destroy the United States while propping up other nations? It used to seem like it was a conspiracy when people said that the president was compromised and was working for other countries. But the more and more he continues to sit in office, the more and more it seems to be. I mean, look at his slogan, Build Back Better. We talked about this before, the amount of Western nations, and many of them non-Western nations, that were using the term, the leaders that were running for office using the terms, Build Back Better. So many of them using this notion of Build Back Better, of making, I don't know, whatever the new World Reset plan is, but it's a plan that was created by the World Economic Forum. So you have a global agenda happening here. Yes, it used to seem a time that was just a conspiracy. Agenda 21, conspiracy. But you can literally, I mean, it depends on how you want to interpret it, I guess you could say, but you can read the entire Agenda 21 on the World Economic Forum website. It's right there to see. They don't hide it. In the end, you have a president that seems to be hell-bent on the destruction of the sovereignty and independence of the United States. The United States cannot continue under this leadership. And again, the sad part is if you think about the fact of him being removed from office because of the poor job that he's doing, next in line you have Kamala Harris. And that is an absolute fuck down. I mean, you would hope that the vice president would be competent coming in, but let's be honest. No, this one is not. So here we sit, wondering what will happen in the next month, the next 2 months, the next 3 months. A lot can go on. And as we've seen with these two, it only takes 2 minutes of them opening their mouths for things to go awry. But let's have a look at how awry things have gone. And we're going to listen to a little bit of Mr. Chip Roy. And he's going to also pass his 30-minute time on to Senator from Virginia. Now, we're not going to play, the entire 30 minutes, but I am going to give you just a couple good highlights so that you can really get a good understanding of what it is that's actually happening. Because this does deal a lot with what's happening at the border, Title 42, and what's currently going on in the United States. And a lot of this is, most of this is not being presented to the American people. If you aren't catching the Senate hearings or the judiciary hearings or these floor sessions, you won't catch it. And if you are getting it from some leftist media, tends to be not the truth. They will convolute it. And even on the right, you will get it. And I will not say that I won't say it's not agenda based. And that's the truth. Each side has their own agenda and they will present it to you as such. So unless you're watching it straight through or listening to it, you will miss it. You will miss it. Now, I may give my opinion on it, but I do enjoy the fact that you let me play it for you first. I give you the opportunity to hear it with your own ears. And whether or not you agree with my take on it, at least you have the opportunity to hear it firsthand for yourself. And not just sound bites. So let's just go ahead and jump into this.
Of people coming across our border, endangering them and their families? No, they don't care. They don't care at all. But I can tell you, we in Texas care. And the leadership of this body better start caring soon. And let me just say something to all my fellow Republicans who just funded this government 2 weeks ago. Those of you who cut a deal with the devil, you're responsible for this too. You funded this government. You funded the government that's allowing people to come across our border, that's empowering cartels, that's allowing migrants to get abused, that's causing ranchers to lose their livestock, ranchers to be endangered, fentanyl to pour across our border. And now this administration has the gall to shut down Title 42 while Americans are still wearing masks on airplanes, while we still have men and women in uniform being forced to get a needle stuck in their arm with the power of government. And the leadership, so-called leadership of our government, has the gall to shut down Title 42, the one thing allowing us to stop the flood at our border, even partially. March of this year, right now, March, 200,000 apprehensions. 100,000 turned away under Title 42. But now the head of the CDC, in coordination with the Department of Homeland Security Secretary, is saying we're going to stop using Title 42. Well, then what in the hell are you going to do?
I'm going to pause it right there because, you know, what's interesting about the head of the CDC is that she partnered with the National School Board Association in order to figure out, to let the School Board Association give their opinion on the science about whether or not children should be going back to school, the mask in school, all of that. The CDC couldn't figure out the science, so they asked the National School Board Association the best way that one could look at it. And one has to ask themselves, why are the CDC the ones that are supposed to be making the health assessments? The ones that are supposed to be giving the information? Why are they asking the National School Board Association for their opinions on whether or not the science is good enough for the kids to go back to school? Sounds absolutely insane. That's not really the word I want to use, but you can figure it out. But let's keep going.
Nothing other than process more immigrants coming across our border who are not truly seeking asylum. But that's what's happening. And what's actually happening at our border right now is that there's shootouts going on as we speak on a daily basis between the Gulf Cartel, it's technically the Cartel Jalisco New Generation, but Gulf Cartel, CDG, warring with the Cartel del Noreste of Los Zetas. And we're talking about dead people, dead bodies, people getting shot in their car, bullets firing, flying all over our southern border, dead individuals, this young girl here, head blown off. All of this is happening every single day. All while American kids are dying with Xanax laced with fentanyl. And again, I want to be clear here. When you take Title 42 away, you, Secretary Mayorkas, you, CDC Director Walensky, you, my Democratic colleagues who are countenancing it and funding it, you, President Biden, when you take away Title 42, the blood is on your hands. Dead Americans, dead migrants, destroyed communities in Texas, empowered cartels, making literally last night, talking to people coming across the border, saying they're spending $3,000 to $5,000 to come up from Nicaragua, Venezuela, Cuba, 13,000 apprehensions from Russia in the last 5 months. We're about to see an unprecedented explosion on our southern border.
13,000 from Russia at coming through the southern border. I mean, you hear these numbers and it's just mind-boggling, and one has to wonder, why is the White House doing nothing to secure the U.S. borders? I mean, the amount of people, look, I mean, understand, all right? Listen, if they're saying that the people are, they're escaping, they're seeking asylum, and let's just say you go with the fact that they're all asylum seekers, okay? They're just not economic migrants or anything like that. These are people fleeing for their lives. Well, a good majority of them, 95, 97%, I'd say, are coming from the Central and Latin American area. So you've got over 2 million in the past year and a half that have crossed illegally into the United States. One would say that that is a problem. I mean, look, the Russian-Ukraine thing that's happening. Over 3 million refugees have fled Ukraine. That is a problem. Millions of migrants are fleeing Central and Latin America for the United States. Is that not a problem? Is that there not a problem going on south of the border that maybe the United States might want to go offer some assistance with? They have no qualms about running all over to the rest of the world, rolling up into the Middle East uninvited. Don't have a problem with backing regimes that we approve of course, or ones that we want to take over, regimes that we don't like. But south of the border, this problem, the United States, no. We must let them all flood through. We cannot do anything to save their countries. We must, I mean, this is a big issue, and it's not to sound heartless or anything like that, but it's just, you have to observe it for what it is. You have to observe it for what it is. You have people fleeing from Los Angeles, not just Los Angeles, but California and New York, heading to the southern states of America by the thousands, mass droves, because those two places are having problems. When the violence started, people fled. Problems. They did nothing about it. Violence got worse. Major problems. Major fleeing. By the people who voted for the policies that enacted those problems to begin with. So don't be offended when people from the South say, please, leave your politics in California. Leave them in New York. You see what you did. Leave it there. You fled it because it didn't work. Now you know. Don't think, well, we didn't do it right. We'll try it again somewhere else. We've got better practice at it. No. It doesn't work that way. But let's listen to this quick exchange with the senator from Virginia.
This president's policies are making every town a border town, every state a border state. Everything and everyone that comes across that border comes under the control of the Mexican crime cartels. And it's threatening the security of our nation. It's an economic security issue. It's a health security issue. And it's certainly a national security issue.
This is true. This is absolutely true. It's really bigger than people think, but I'm sorry, I just had to say that. Let's continue.
My most recent trip to the border that my friend from Texas was mentioning was to Del Rio, Texas. He led a trip to Del Rio, Texas. You might remember that's where we had Bidentown just a few weeks ago, with 20,000 Haitian migrants assembled under the bridge there in Bidentown, Del Rio, Texas. Well, while we don't have that still today, because they distributed those migrants, those illegals, into the interior of the country, which they're doing all the time, by the way, flying and busing illegal aliens in the dark of night, wherever they want to go throughout the country, with no even requirement of a court date to appear. It's a pinky promise that we'll get back with you in the future and give you a date to appear. So while we don't have 20,000 in Bidentown under the bridge right now in Del Rio, Texas, right through that corridor, Border Patrol and the ranchers and the sheriffs that were there told us it's 1,000 a day through there. So every 3 weeks, you've got a repeat of what we saw with Bidentown just a few weeks ago in Del Rio, Texas. Does this administration care? Every resource they have committed or directed to that border has been to facilitate, to willfully, purposely facilitate more illegals crossing into our country and to hide it from the American people. To hide it from the American people. There's been no effort by this administration in this president's first year, to stem it, to stop it. Instead, they try to facilitate it, hide it from the American people, and now they want to make it worse, 2 or 3 times worse, with what they're doing with Title 42. So with that, I yield to the gentleman from Texas or the gentleman from Pennsylvania.
Well, before I yield to the gentleman from Pennsylvania, which I'll do momentarily, I just want to pick up on something the gentleman from Virginia said and see if he would agree that if Title 42 goes away, our country is completely open to anyone who wants to come in. Would the gentleman agree?
Absolutely.
Because virtually everyone who has been turned away has been almost entirely done under Title 42,
That's
correct?
Right.
Now, for the listeners at home, Title 42 is a health code provision allowing our officials in government to turn people away if we have a communicable disease environment like we do during the COVID pandemic. Now, we can do it for any number of communicable diseases, but we've got that in place now. And under Title 42, that has been roughly half of the folks been turned away under Title 42. Would the gentleman agree?
Yeah, but they're just turnarounds coming right back.
So to that point, would it surprise the gentleman that under the administration, we have turned away 1.7 million people under Title 42?
Since 2019, when that was instated, right?
Yeah, Title 42 has been used more than one, including the time under the Trump administration, 1.7 million times during the pandemic. All the people that were turned back would likely have been let in and released into the United States under this administration. Now, some of those are repeats.
That's right.
But something along the lines of 1 million people that would have been released into the United States last year. Does the gentleman agree?
Absolutely.
And then one other point. Of the people that have come into the United States and are being encountered, these are all not just nice people looking for a job, are they?
160 different countries.
160 different countries. Roughly 10,763 criminal non-citizens and at least 3,662 have been arrested thus far in fiscal year 2022. The combined timeframes include roughly 85 convictions of manslaughter or homicide, 604 sexual offenses, and 2,892 convictions of illegal drug possession and trafficking, based on reports at least 14 illegal migrants who were on the terrorist watch list were stopped at the southern border in fiscal year 2021. But the biggest problem is what?
Gotaways.
The gotaways. The more than 500,000 known gotaways, known gotaways last year. So if we've got people we're catching on the terrorist watch list, if we've got criminals convicted of sex crimes, convicted of murder and manslaughter that we're catching, but that's all people that Border Patrol are running across and they're often turning themselves in. All of those known gotaways, do you think those are just the angels seeking a nice job?
These aren't the ones dressed head to toe in camo with the carpet shoes on who are evading capture, are they?
It would be.
How about that?
Now I'd like to turn it over and yield time to the gentleman from Pennsylvania.
I'm gonna go ahead and stop it right there. I mean, those numbers are insane. It's absolutely insane. So we know that, since 2019, rather, since 2020, about 2 million have entered into the United States illegally. You're looking at what he said, 1.7. Then repeat, so just go with his number of 1 million. So that's 1 million that were turned away. I mean, you're looking at what, the 500,000 gotaways a year? Really, something like that? Let's add the ones they don't know, make it 3, just round up, probably another 200, half that number, so 3/4. So that's 1.5 million. I'd say gotaways on top of the 2 million that have already come in illegally. And these are you got to ask yourself, once Title 42 goes away, you're looking at, the fact is right now they're saying the numbers are about 28,000 a month is what they're coming in. And they're forecasting that when Title 42 ends, you could be looking at about 18,000 a day. So the Biden town, which what they call it, the Del Rio section, where there were the 21 or so Haitian migrants that they did live into the United States, you're looking at that number on a daily basis if Title 42 goes away. You're looking at around those numbers on a daily basis. So, let's, think about that. 18,000, almost 20,000 a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Do you really believe that the United States will be able to sustain that? Let's be honest, once they're here, look, I'm not trying to sound like an a-hole, but you're not going to be able to catch 3-4 million people. It's not happening. So, the infrastructure for the United States is going to have a whole lot of problems. There's a whole lot of safety issues. And given the situation that the president has created on an international scale, and the amount of countries that are looking at the United States as being weak and looking for their chance to be able to get in, to get themselves set up if they wanted to do harm to American citizens, the Democrats are rolling out the red carpet for them. And there's no other way to look at this. The White House is on a fast track to ensure that the United States will be crippled for the next 15 to 40 years. What is their ultimate goal? We don't know, but it does not involve the continuation of an independent and prosperous United States of America. But that's our show, and I thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks again for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you want to hear complete episodes, you can find us on thesandwichofcoherency.com. And if you're looking for really cool merchandise, you can find it on Teespring under thesandwichofcoherency.com. Thanks again.